When Charlotte Riley arrived at the bar to pick up Zach Gibson, she paused at the doorway when she overheard the conversation inside. Zach, Wendy Cooper is back. What about Charlotte? Zach's voice was calm and indifferent. What about her? You've been with Charlotte for 3 years. Now that Wendy is back, what will you do? Through the narrow gap in the door, Charlotte saw Zach light a cigarette. Smoke curled around him as he remained silent for a moment. Then, in a low voice, he said, I don't know. I don't want to hurt Charlotte, but I also can't let go of Wendy. One of his friends sighed. Wendy was your first love, the one who always lingered in your heart. You two had such a fiery, passionate relationship back then. It's no surprise you still can't forget her. Another friend interjected, come on, go. Charlotte has been with you for 3 years. She's beautiful. And you still can't move on from Wendy? Zach rubbed his temples, his voice carrying a trace of exhaustion. Charlotte is gorgeous, no doubt. But the reason I pursued her. She reminded me of Wendy. For years, I was just searching for traces of Wendy in her. So she's just a stand-in? One of his friends sighed. Man, I actually feel bad for Charlotte. Someone else asked, so when are you going to break up with her? Zach flicked the ash off his cigarette. I don't know. Charlotte is obedient and understanding. Honestly, I'm a little reluctant to end things. A friend patted him on the shoulder. Zach, you can't have it both ways. You need to make a choice. Why choose? Another friend said lazily. Just keep dating both. And if you feel guilty about Charlotte, buy her some gifts. Women are easy to please. Zach let out a short laugh. Not everyone is like you, juggling 3 or 4 women at once. I'm not that reckless. Outside the door, Charlotte curled her lips in a self-deprecating smile and turned to leave. She walked along the riverside, replaying the past 3 years with Zach in her mind. 3 years. She had thought their love was mutual. But in the end, she was nothing more than a substitute for his first love. Standing by the river, she stared into the distance. The river flowed silently under the moon, forming a vivid contrast to the bustling city streets. A tear slid down her cheek. The fierce river wind lifted her hair. Charlotte made a decision. She took out her phone and dialed a number. Dad, I'm ready. I'll come home and go through with the engagement. The dark night made the streetlights seem even dimmer. Moths fluttered around the glow. Standing beneath the light, Charlotte gazed up at the endless night sky. Her voice was soft, calm. It's nothing, really. I'm just done playing around. I'm ready to settle down. I was wrong before. I was reckless and immature. I shouldn't have fought with you and run away from home. But I've figured things out now. I'll head back to Jersey City once I've taken care of things here. Charlotte walked alone for a long time before finally returning to the Harmony Hill villa. It was already past 10 at night. Mrs. Zimmer, the housekeeper, saw her come in and handed her a bowl of oatmeal. Miss Riley, you're back. This is the soothing oatmeal you made for Mr. Gibson, right? It got cold, so I reheated it. I was just about to bring it up to him when you walked in. Why don't you take it to him instead? Charlotte didn't say anything. She simply took the bowl and headed upstairs to the bedroom. She pushed open the door. The desk was empty. The computer screen was on, but Zach was nowhere in sight. The sound of running water came from the bathroom. The light was on. He was showering this early? She set the bowl down. The constant notification sound from his computer drew her attention. She moved the mouse and clicked it open. It was Wendy. Zach, I'm back. I'll arrive at Harbor City Airport at 11:30 tonight. Can you pick me up? The message was sent 10 minutes ago. So, that's why he was showering. He was getting ready to pick up his old crush. Zach, these past few years apart, I've never stopped thinking about you. I couldn't forget you. I regret choosing my career and going abroad over staying with you. We were both too proud. Neither of us knew how to give in. But deep down, I know you still have feelings for me, don't you? I dated a few guys over the years, but none of them lasted. No matter who I was with, something always felt missing. It took me a long time to realize that I've only ever truly loved you. I was afraid to come back to Harbor City before. Afraid you'd still hate me. Afraid to see you with someone else. Afraid you wouldn't love me anymore. I was wrong back then, Zach. Can you forgive me? Charlotte stared at the screen in silence, her chest feeling tight. She was about to close the chat window and leave when she saw Zach's reply. Wendy, I just have one question, do you still love me? Even while showering, he had to take the time to reply. Charlotte's heart clenched. Zach was always busy with work. He barely had time to text her back. She had gotten used to it. To avoid disturbing him, she rarely sent him messages anymore. But for Wendy, even in the middle of a shower, he made sure to reply. It couldn't be more obvious whether he loved her or not. Wendy's response came almost instantly. I do. I only love you. Okay. I'll come pick you up. At that moment, Charlotte realized that her 3-year relationship had been nothing but a joke. She silently closed the chat window, placed the mouse back where it was, and pretended nothing had happened. Then, she walked downstairs to the kitchen and ladled herself a bowl of oatmeal. Spoonful by spoonful, she ate. Zach had a sensitive stomach. She had learned to make him a warm, comforting bowl of oatmeal, simmering oats with milk and honey, then adding soft, diced sweet potatoes for a bit of natural sweetness. It wasn't quick or easy to make, but because he once said, I like it, she had been making it for him for 2 years. By the time she finished her bowl, Zach had come downstairs. His hair was dry, and he had changed into a fresh set of clothes. Where did you go? I didn't see you when I came down, he asked. Charlotte replied calmly, just went out for a walk. Zach put on his shoes. I have to head out for a bit. If you're tired, go to bed. Don't wait up for me. Charlotte lowered her gaze and softly responded, Are you coming back tonight? She asked. Zach paused while putting on his shoes. After a few seconds of silence, he said, There's an urgent matter at the company. If it gets too late, I probably won't come back. Oh, all right. No arguing. No questioning. Charlotte had always been understanding. Zach didn't think much of it. He finished putting on his shoes and walked out without looking back. Charlotte went upstairs and pushed open Zach's bedroom door. As expected, the bowl of oatmeal by his computer remained untouched. On her phone, a message popped up from Sean Jasper, the fiancé her family had chosen for her. Sean, Lottie, when are you coming back to Jersey City? To Charlotte, Sean had always been like an older brother. He treated her well, and when he called her Lottie, it didn't feel like a nickname between an engaged couple, more like an affectionate term an older brother would use for his younger sister. Charlotte, after I take care of things here. Sean, all right. If you need any help, just let me know. Charlotte, thanks, Sean. Sean, get some rest. Good night. That night, Zach never came home. The next morning, Charlotte was woken up by the ringing of her phone. Hello? Charlotte. My birthday is the day after tomorrow. Don't forget to come to my party. She pulled her phone away slightly, blinking groggily at the contact name, Quinn Spencer. A friend from Zach's social circle. They got along well enough. All right, send me the location, Charlotte replied. After hanging up, she got up, freshened up, and headed out to the mall to pick out a gift. She settled on a necklace from a well-known brand, the latest design, one that perfectly suited Quinn's style. On the night of Quinn's birthday party, Charlotte arrived early at the venue. Quinn, happy birthday. She handed over the gift. Quinn accepted it with a polite thank you. Just as they were exchanging pleasantries, Zach walked in, his arm linked with an unfamiliar woman. Their eyes met. Zach froze. Charlotte. What are you doing here? Zach instinctively brushed off the woman's hand from his arm. She stiffened, momentarily caught off guard. Charlotte met his gaze, a half-smile playing on her lips. Quinn and I are friends too. Is it so strange that I'd be at her birthday party? Zach hesitated. No, I just thought you didn't like these kinds of parties, so I didn't mention it to you. Charlotte scoffed inwardly. Oh. Was it really because I don't like parties? Or did you just not tell me because you planned to bring someone else instead? After offering his explanation, Zach scanned the room. His gaze was cold and piercing, as if saying who invited her. Quinn, avoiding eye contact, guiltily turned away and pretended she had nothing to do with it. Just then, the woman Zach had arrived with stepped forward, smiling. "Hi, you must be Charlotte Riley. I'm Wendy Cooper. I'm sure Zach has mentioned me before?" Oh. So this was Wendy Cooper, Zach's first love, the one he could never forget. A dull ache settled in Charlotte's chest, making it hard to breathe. 3 years of dating. No matter how much she tried to tell herself it didn't matter, feelings couldn't just disappear overnight. But she hid it well. With a composed smile, she nodded politely. "Miss Cooper, I've heard a lot about you." Wendy's lips curled into a bright, seemingly innocent smile. "Miss Riley, has anyone ever told you that we look alike?" The second those words left her mouth, Zach's expression darkened. Charlotte let out a small laugh and gave him a brief, amused glance before shifting her gaze to Wendy, whose eyes held a hint of provocation. "Oh. Is that so?" Her wide, almond-shaped eyes sparkled with feigned innocence as she tilted her head, her voice sweet and airy. "I don't see it." Then she smiled, soft, yet merciless. "You're not as pretty as me." The room went dead silent. The onlookers, who had been quietly enjoying the drama, were stunned. Wasn't Charlotte always the gentle, well-mannered type? Since when did she start throwing shade? Sensing the tension in the air, Quinn quickly stepped in to diffuse the situation. "Come on, everyone, don't just stand around. Grab a seat." Wendy forced a smile, clearly irritated but unwilling to show it. She turned to Quinn and handed her a beautifully wrapped gift. "Happy birthday, Quinn. This is for you." Quinn took the bag, and the moment she saw it, her brows lifted in surprise. "Wait. Isn't this the same gift bag Charlotte just gave me?" she muttered to herself. Curious, she opened it and pulled out a jewelry box. Her eyes lit up. "Wow. I've had my eye on this necklace for ages." "Thank you, Wendy." Charlotte's gaze flickered. "The same necklace?" Before she could react, Quinn grabbed the bag Charlotte had given her earlier and opened it too. "Oh my God. Charlotte, you got me the exact same necklace." The excitement was short-lived. A voice from behind Quinn snorted. "Fake, obviously." Without even looking, she sneered, "That necklace costs over 10 grand. Charlotte's just a small-time lawyer. How much does she even make a month? Do you really think she could afford the real thing?" The moment those words fell, the room went dead silent. All at once, every gaze shifted to Charlotte, curious, skeptical, amused. It was obvious. They all believed it. After all, she was just an insignificant, no-name lawyer. Why would she spend that kind of money on a real luxury necklace for Quinn? Zach's expression darkened, clearly displeased. "Charlotte, if you're short on money, just tell me. I could have gotten the gift for you. There was no need to. No need to buy a fake one." He didn't say the words out loud. But everyone in the room heard them anyway. Charlotte's expression remained calm, but her gaze turned cold. "Zach, you think I gave her a fake necklace too?" Zach didn't answer. His silence said everything. He didn't believe her. Quinn let out an awkward laugh, trying to smooth things over. "Come on, guys, that's not possible. Charlotte and I are close. There's no way she'd give me a fake necklace. Don't say things like that, it's really hurtful." Her words were meant to defend Charlotte, but the subtle look of disdain in her eyes didn't escape her notice. Charlotte's heart sank. She had spent over 10 grand on this necklace as a token of gratitude for the small kindness Quinn had once shown her. 3 years ago, Charlotte had run away to Harbor City to escape her arranged marriage, cutting ties with her family. Her father, Desmond Riley, had retaliated by freezing her bank accounts, cutting off her finances completely. Determined to stand on her own, she refused to use her family's name or connections and managed to land a job at a law firm entirely on her own merit. In her first year as a junior associate, she barely made $800 a month. Even after passing the bar a year later, her salary wasn't much, at least, not in the eyes of the rich heirs and heiresses in Zach's social circle. To them, she was nothing but a nobody, an outsider. Every time they went out, they sidelined her, excluded her, sometimes outright mocking her. Zach never interfered. He simply turned a blind eye. But Quinn had stepped in. She had defended her a few times, chatted with her when no one else would. Charlotte had naively believed Quinn was different. But now, she could see it clearly. She had never truly belonged in their world. And she never would. How ridiculous. That very night, after Charlotte had agreed to the engagement, Desmond reactivated her bank accounts. Now, 10 grand meant nothing to her, no more than spare change. Zach finally spoke, his voice cool and authoritative. Give me the necklace. I'll make sure Charlotte replaces it with a proper gift. Charlotte raised an eyebrow, crossing her arms as she looked at him coldly. If he wants it, just give it to him. Quinn hesitated, caught in the middle. If she refused, she would be going against Zach, which would be a bad look. But if she handed over the necklace, it would mean she believed it was fake, publicly humiliating Charlotte. And Charlotte was still Zach's girlfriend. If anyone looked bad here, it was ultimately Zach himself. Under his piercing gaze, Quinn had no choice but to hand over the necklace. Just then, Wendy spoke up, her voice soft and gentle. Zach, don't blame Miss Riley. I'm sure she meant well. Zach remained silent, his face clouded with irritation. Someone in the group quickly suggested a drinking game to break the tension. Wendy eagerly joined in, flashing her usual charming smile. Charlotte, uninterested in the lively scene, quietly walked over to a sofa in the corner and sat down, scrolling through her phone. A few moments later, Zach followed and sat beside her, his expression still cold. Charlotte ignored him, keeping her eyes on her screen. After a long pause, he finally spoke in a low, firm voice. If you didn't have the money, you could have just bought something cheaper. That would have been better than gifting a fake. Charlotte didn't even look up. Her tone was calm, indifferent. If you think it's fake, give it back. Zach's jaw tightened. Do you have any idea how embarrassing this is for me? Charlotte shut her eyes, took a deep breath, then suddenly opened them. She turned to look at him directly. Her voice was calm, but her eyes burned with quiet fury. Embarrassing for you? Exactly how did I embarrass you? The receipt's in the bag. You couldn't be bothered to check? Or do you need me to take you to the store so you can verify it with a sales associate? Zach stiffened. For a moment, he just sat there, speechless. Then, wordlessly, he reached for the gift bag and started searching for the receipt. Zach's expression finally eased as he looked at the receipt. The necklace was real. His tone softened. Why didn't you just say you had the receipt? Charlotte let out a cold laugh. Didn't feel like it. With that, she returned to her game, fingers tapping the screen as if he weren't even there. Zach sat in silence for a while before finally lowering his voice. Sorry. I misunderstood you today. Charlotte pretended not to hear him, fully focused on her game. Zach didn't say anything else, but he didn't leave either. His gaze, however, wasn't on her. It was on Wendy. Charlotte finished her game and glanced up, only to catch him staring at Wendy. Across the room, Wendy had just lost a round of the drinking game. Her friends cheered as they pushed another drink into her hands. At first, Zach restrained himself. But the moment she tipped back her third glass and reached for a fourth, his expression darkened. Suddenly, he shot up from his seat, striding across the room. Before Wendy could take another sip, Zach snatched the glass from her hand. Your stomach's still weak, and you're drinking this much? Wendy, do you have a death wish? The once lively room fell into a stunned silence. Everyone turned to look at them. Wendy, clearly irritated, met his angry gaze and sneered. Why do you care? You're not drinking anymore. Zach swept a sharp, warning glance across the room. His voice was ice cold. I dare anyone to make her drink again. Nobody dared to meet his gaze. Charlotte sat on the sofa, watching the ridiculous spectacle unfold before her, her lips curling into a mocking smirk. Wendy suddenly got up, reaching for the glass Zach had taken from her. Zach lifted it higher, keeping it out of her reach. Determined, Wendy stood on her toes, stretching toward the drink. She lost her balance. With a startled gasp, she fell straight into Zach's arms. Zach instinctively caught her, his free hand tightening around her waist. Careful, he murmured. It's been years, and you're still just as clumsy. Wendy, her cheeks flushed from alcohol, leaned into his chest, tilting her head up at him with a playful pout. Zach, you're so annoying. The crowd burst into cheers and teasing laughter. Just as Zach was about to say something, he glanced up and unexpectedly met Charlotte's ice-cold gaze. It was as if Zach had just remembered that his girlfriend was still here. Snapping back to reality, he quickly let go of Wendy's waist and took a step back, as if waking from a dream. His friends, realizing the awkwardness of the situation, immediately jumped in to smooth things over. Come on, let's keep playing. Wendy, your stomach isn't great, skip the drinks. Just do truth or dare instead. Yeah, truth or dare works. Zach, now composed again, returned to the couch. He thought Charlotte would be jealous, maybe throw a small tantrum. But she said nothing. That complete indifference unsettled him more than anger ever could. For some reason, he had this nagging feeling that Charlotte felt different tonight. A strange silence stretched between them. Zach hesitated, wanting to say something, to explain. But just then, the room burst into laughter and cheers again. Wendy lost again. Truth or dare? Charlotte didn't even need to turn her head to know that Zach's attention had already shifted. I'll do dare. Wendy smirked, then turned to Zach, eyes gleaming with something unreadable. Someone handed her a stack of folded slips. Here, pick one. She casually pulled a paper from the pile. The moment the guy next to her unfolded it, his eyes widened. His gaze flickered between Wendy, Zach, and Charlotte. A curious girl peeked over his shoulder. What did she get? Let me see. The second she read it, she gasped sharply. The room buzzed with excitement. What is it? Come on, what's the dare? The guy cleared his throat, then announced, kiss a random guy in the room. As soon as the words fell, Zach's entire expression darkened. The temperature in the room dropped instantly. Wendy, however, seemed completely unfazed. With a playful grin, she turned toward a good-looking guy sitting nearby. Ethan, would you mind kissing me? Ethan Lincoln snuck a glance at Zach, whose expression looked murderous. He didn't even dare to breathe. Seeing that he wasn't responding, Wendy stepped closer, reaching up to hook her arms around his neck, about to press her lips against his. Enough, Zach's sharp voice rang through the room. Unable to control himself any longer, he grabbed Wendy's wrist and yanked her away. Without another word, he stormed out, dragging her with him. The room fell into stunned silence. Slowly, all eyes turned to Charlotte. She picked up a glass of juice, took a sip, and smiled lightly. Why are you all looking at me? The group quickly looked away, some pretending to drink, others casually chatting, acting as if nothing had happened. Charlotte took another sip, and with it, she felt the last bit of warmth drain from her heart. In all the years she had known Zach, he had always been calm, composed, and indifferent to everything. Tonight was the first time she had ever seen him completely lose control. After finishing her drink, Charlotte got up and went to the restroom. Just as she was about to step out of the stall, she heard voices by the sinks. Is Zach crazy? He just left his girlfriend behind and ran off with Wendy. Ugh, isn't it obvious? Wendy's the one he actually cares about. Right? Did you see his face when Wendy almost kissed Ethan? He looked like he was about to kill someone. Poor Charlotte. She just had to sit there and watch her own boyfriend lose his mind over another woman. Honestly, she's just a stand-in. Yeah, at this rate, they'll break up soon. Anyone can see Zach is still in love with Wendy. Yeah, The girl's words caught in her throat. Through the mirror, she saw Charlotte step out of the bathroom stall behind them. She shut her mouth immediately. The other two girls saw her too. Without another word, they lowered their heads and hurried out. Charlotte walked up to the sink, calmly washing her hands. Yes. She and Zach were indeed close to breaking up. But this time. It wouldn't be because he left her. It wouldn't be because he didn't want her anymore. It would be because she no longer loved him. Because she didn't want him anymore. By the time Charlotte returned to Zach's villa, it was already past 11 at night. She was exhausted. She showered quickly, crawled into bed, and fell asleep almost instantly. Zach didn't come home until the following afternoon. Pushing open the bedroom door, he immediately noticed the open suitcase lying on the floor, clothes neatly stacked beside it. His brows furrowed in confusion. What's all this? Charlotte peeked out from behind the wardrobe. Oh, you're back. I'm heading home for a bit in a few days. She had lived here for 2 years. There were plenty of clothes, shoes, and random things she wouldn't bother bringing back to Jersey City, but she still needed to sort through them and pack up what she wanted to take. When she left, she wouldn't leave a single trace of herself behind. Just as she finished speaking, her eyes landed on the faint red marks peeking out from Zach's collar. For a moment, she froze. Then, as if nothing had happened, she looked away. She no longer cared. Who he spent the night with had nothing to do with her anymore. Zach frowned at her response. Why are you suddenly going home? Are you still upset about last night? Are you trying to avoid me? No, she replied casually. I just miss my parents. Thought I'd go see them. Hearing this, Zach was relieved. That's good. It's been 3 years. You should go visit. She had never gone home once in all this time. Even on holidays, she spent them alone. Of course, he wouldn't have accompanied her. Leaving his family behind for her had never been an option. Bringing her home to meet his parents? Even more impossible. His mother would never accept a woman without status or background. After a brief pause, he added, I've been busy lately, so I won't be able to go with you. What day's your flight? I'll have my driver take you to the airport. Charlotte carefully folded a dress and placed it inside the suitcase. No need. I'll get a car myself. Someone's picking me up. At that, Zach exhaled subtly, though he wasn't even aware of it himself. He had been worried she might ask him to go back with her to meet her parents. After 3 years together, for an average couple, it would be time to talk about marriage. But he wasn't an average man. He was Zach Gibson, the only heir to the Gibson family fortune and the sole successor to Gibson Corporation. And the gap between their worlds was one that could never be crossed. Deep down, he had always known they had no future. There was no point in meeting her parents, no point in discussing marriage. Thankfully, Charlotte seemed to understand this too. She never clung to him, never asked him to take her home. Thinking about it now, Zach once again felt a sense of appreciation for how obedient and understanding she was. Even after last night, when he had recklessly left her behind to chase after Wendy, she didn't throw a fit, didn't cry, didn't even question him. She made things so easy. For the past 3 years, she had never checked up on him, never gotten jealous, never fought with him over his flings. Just then, his best friend's voice echoed in his mind. Just keep dating both. And if you feel guilty about Charlotte, buy her some gifts. Women are easy to please. Maybe he really could marry Wendy and keep Charlotte as his lover. After all, a woman like her would never find another man like him. She loved him too much to ever leave him. Yes, he would wait until she came back from Jersey City, and then he would talk to her properly. Zach glanced at her packing and said casually, take care on the way. Let me know when you get home. And when you're back in Harbor City, I'll come pick you up. Charlotte lowered her gaze and replied softly, all right. I won't be coming back. She said it only in her heart. Zach seemed like he had more to say, but just then, his phone rang. After answering the call, he turned back to her. I have to head out. Last night was my fault. I shouldn't have left you there alone. I bought you a gift. My assistant will drop it off soon. Charlotte responded with a simple, indifferent, Zach didn't linger. He turned and walked out. Moments after he left, her phone lit up with a message from Sean. Lottie, the engagement ring I had custom made for you at Chaumet Paris has arrived at their Harbor City boutique. Stop by whenever you have time. Chaumet Paris was one of the world's most prestigious luxury jewelry brands. Charlotte had only agreed to the engagement a few days ago. Yet, the ring was already here? Had it been ordered in advance? She didn't ask. She simply replied with a short, okay. At the Chaumet boutique, the sales associate greeted her warmly, presenting the ring with a bright smile. Miss Riley, this is the custom engagement ring Mr. Jasper designed for you. Charlotte picked it up and examined it closely. A 5-carat rare blue diamond, encircled by delicate pink and colorless diamonds, sparkling brilliantly under the lights. It was so breathtakingly beautiful it almost looked unreal. The inside of the band is also engraved with your initials alongside Mr. Jasper's, the associate added. Charlotte turned the ring slightly, inspecting the engraving inside. SJCR. Clearly, a great deal of thought had gone into this design. Slipping the ring onto her finger, she found the fit to be perfect. It's gorgeous, the associate remarked sincerely. Just as Charlotte was admiring the ring, a familiar voice suddenly cut through the boutique. Charlotte Riley, what are you doing here? Charlotte frowned slightly and turned around. At that very moment, Zach subtly let go of Wendy's hand. Wendy's eyes darkened for a fleeting second, but she quickly regained her composure, as if nothing had happened. Charlotte, however, wasn't surprised in the least. Of course, Zach would be here with Wendy. She flashed a sweet, carefree smile. Trying on rings. Zach's expression darkened instantly. He took a few steps forward, his gaze fixing on the engagement ring on her finger. Charlotte held up her hand and tilted her fingers slightly, letting the massive diamond catch the light. So? She asked with a bright smile. Isn't it beautiful? A flicker of anger flashed in Zach's eyes. No, he said coldly. It's ugly. They both knew exactly what that ring represented. Zach had always assumed Charlotte was obedient, sensible, and knew her place. He never thought she would actually dare to reach for something that wasn't meant for her. Marriage. That was something he could never give her. And Charlotte was never worthy of it. He remained silent, his expression unreadable. Wendy, standing beside him, smiled pleasantly. What a coincidence, Miss Riley, she said lightly. Zach and I are here to look at rings today too. Charlotte let out a cold laugh in her mind. So the phone call Zach had taken earlier, the one he had vaguely referred to as something urgent, was nothing more than Wendy asking him to go shopping with her. She had called him to help pick out a ring, and he had dropped everything to accompany her. Zach didn't offer an explanation. He didn't even bother to deny it. His silence was all the confirmation she needed. Wendy's gaze drifted toward the engagement ring on Charlotte's finger. TSK. That blue diamond in the center had to be at least 5 carats. And the surrounding halo of rare pink diamonds. This ring had to be worth at least 7 or 8 million. She really had the nerve to try it on. Did she not feel embarrassed, knowing she couldn't afford it? But Charlotte barely reacted to Wendy's thinly veiled provocation. She simply let out a disinterested, "Oh." She then continued admiring the ring on her hand. She had to admit that Sean had excellent taste. She was very satisfied with this ring. Miss Riley, that ring is absolutely stunning, Wendy said with a smile. Charlotte beamed. Isn't it? I think so too. Zach's expression turned even darker. Take it off, he ordered. Charlotte tilted her head slightly, feigning confusion. Why? Zach clenched his jaw. Why are you even trying on rings? What, are you trying to pressure me into marriage? His voice grew sharper. Let me make this clear. I will never marry you. For a split second, Wendy's lips curved into a barely noticeable smirk. She hadn't needed to say anything at all. Zach had delivered the final blow himself. Miss Riley, Wendy continued, her voice light and airy, Zach and I are here today at Mrs. Gibson's request to look at rings. The Mrs. Gibson she was referring to was none other than Monica Miller, Zach's mother. Wendy's meaning was clear, I'm the one Zach's mother has chosen. The Gibson family has already accepted me. So don't even think about marrying into their family, Charlotte. Charlotte studied the pair standing in front of her and almost laughed out loud. She had merely tried on her fiancé's custom-made engagement ring. And yet here they were. One, so self-absorbed, convinced she was desperately clinging to a man who didn't want her. And the other, so eager to flaunt that she had Monica's approval. But, seriously? The Gibson family. That tiny Harbor City nouveau riche household? Her father wouldn't even consider them worthy. Oh, got it. Charlotte's tone was completely indifferent, as if none of this mattered. Both Wendy and Zach froze for a second. Why didn't she care? Wendy studied Charlotte's face carefully, searching for even the slightest trace of jealousy or resentment. But her expression was flawless and completely unreadable. For the first time, Wendy wasn't sure. Was Charlotte pretending not to care, or did she really not care at all? Zach's expression had already turned stormy. Charlotte Riley, do you think this is funny? Did you know Wendy and I were coming here to look at rings today, so you showed up on purpose to wait for me? Let me make this clear. You and I will never happen. If you're trying to pressure me into marriage, it's useless. Marriage is about compatibility. With your background, how could you ever be a match for me? His words were sharp and relentless. Just look at yourself right now. It's embarrassing. He was genuinely angry now, throwing out accusations in one breath. But Charlotte wasn't angry at all. Instead, she smiled, her voice light. Oh. I'm embarrassing? She tilted her head slightly. As far as I remember, we haven't broken up yet. So, by that logic, Miss Cooper here is a mistress, and you, Zach Gibson, are nothing more than a cheating jerk. Now tell me, who's the embarrassing one? Zach's entire face twisted in rage. His chest rose and fell sharply as he barked, "Take it off." Charlotte's voice remained calm, unbothered. No. Fine. If you like it so much, then keep wearing it. But don't expect me to ever buy you a ring, and don't even think about marrying me. Charlotte nodded lightly, completely unfazed. Zach was livid. No matter what he said, it was like throwing punches at air. Charlotte simply refused to react. Frustrated, he shot her a furious glare before storming out of the store. Zach, wait for me. Wendy quickly chased after him. Once they were gone, the sales associate turned to Charlotte, looking completely confused. Miss Riley, those two are. Charlotte adjusted the ring on her finger and said calmly, just irrelevant people. No need to mind them. 3 years of dating, and Zach never once considered marrying her. Little did he know that he wasn't even qualified to marry her. She had never once considered marrying him either. Charlotte took out her phone and snapped a few photos of the ring, sending them to Sean. Does it look good? At that moment, in the CEO's office of Jasper Corporation, Sean glanced at his phone. At the sight of a message from the contact saved as Lottie, a small smile tugged at his lips. Setting aside the document he was reviewing, he typed back a reply. It looks beautiful. Do you like it? I do. Sean's smile deepened. As long as you like it. Sean, this ring must have been really expensive, right? Not at all. You deserve the best. Sean's assistant, Harry Lowe, stood nearby, waiting for his signature. He had already sneaked a few glances at his boss. Was he seeing things? The cold, expressionless CEO was smiling. And not just any smile, a soft, almost sweet one? It was like the air around him was filled with pink bubbles. Sean signed the last document and looked up. What are you staring at? His tone was back to its usual coolness. Harry immediately straightened up and grabbed the papers. Nothing, Mr. Jasper. I'll take my leave now. Meanwhile, Charlotte picked up the ring and walked out of the boutique, heading next door to a high-end men's watch store. She wanted to buy Sean a watch as a gift for when she returned to Jersey City. Her father had sent her some recent photos of him. Sharp features, deep-set eyes, a refined yet distant aura. He looked almost exactly as she remembered. After carefully browsing, she selected a sleek black wristwatch that suited Sean perfectly. Just as she finished paying, a familiar voice greeted her from the side. Charlotte, what are you doing here? Eugene Jacobs, one of Zach's friends, approached. He was also the one who had casually mentioned that he almost felt bad for Charlotte that night at the bar. They had known each other for nearly 3 years, and Charlotte had always thought he wasn't too bad. I just came to pick up a few things, she replied. Eugene glanced at the shopping bag in her hand. Is this a gift for Zach? Charlotte didn't feel like explaining, so she simply nodded. That brand's watches aren't cheap. Even their most basic models start in the 5-figure range. You really don't need to spend so much on a gift for him. He He hesitated, then stopped short. Because what he really wanted to say, "He doesn't deserve it," was better left unsaid. Zach had already admitted that he couldn't let go of Wendy, that Charlotte was nothing more than a stand-in. Last night, he had left Charlotte behind in front of everyone, openly taking Wendy's hand and walking away. Charlotte didn't know what had happened after that, but Eugene did. After they left the party, Zach and Wendy had spent the night at a hotel together. There was a private group chat with all their friends in it. Charlotte had never been invited to join, even after 3 years of dating Zach. Yet, the moment Wendy returned to the country, Zach had added her in. This afternoon, Wendy had unexpectedly posted a photo of herself and Zach in bed in their private group chat, along with a message. "Make sure to save this as a keepsake, Zach." Less than a minute later, she quickly deleted it, claiming she had sent it to the wrong chat. Eugene had seen the message pop up just in time. He had thought about saying something, but in the end, he let it go. It wasn't his business. The less involvement, the better. He had wanted to tell Charlotte the truth, to warn her to let go. But as the words reached his lips, he changed his mind. "Zach doesn't need things like this. You really don't have to spend months of your salary on such an expensive gift for him," he said instead. After all, Zach was his friend of over 10 years. Some things, he just couldn't bring himself to say. He also wanted to tell Charlotte that even if she spent months' worth of wages on a gift, Zach probably wouldn't even appreciate it. But that was too cruel. He couldn't bring himself to say that either. Of course, Charlotte already knew Zach wasn't worthy. The watch wasn't even for him. She simply nodded, smiling politely. "Got it. I won't do it next time." They chatted for a little while longer before parting ways. Eugene watched Charlotte's retreating figure and sighed. "She's way too good for this. How did she end up getting caught up with Zach?" Unable to hold back, he sent Zach a message. "Bro, your girlfriend is seriously a keeper. I just ran into her. She was buying you a watch. A watch worth tens of thousands, just like that. That's months of her salary, man. You should really appreciate her." Zach was having dinner with Wendy when he received the message. The frustration that had been brewing inside him all day instantly disappeared. His expression softened. So Charlotte had realized she was wrong and was trying to apologize with a gift. If that was the case, he would give her a way out. He would accept the watch, say a few gentle words to smooth things over, maybe even apologize for his tone earlier. Then he would throw in a few sweet lines to pacify her. Charlotte had always been easy to please. "Zach, what's wrong? Who messaged you?" Wendy asked from across the table. Zach put away his phone, his expression unreadable. "No one important." Wendy didn't press further. A few minutes later, Zach excused himself to use the restroom. The moment he was out of sight, Wendy picked up his phone from the table. She had seen him enter his password before. It was his birthday, so it was easy to remember. Quickly, she typed it in and unlocked the screen. The first thing she checked was his chat with Charlotte. Their last conversation was from a week ago. Charlotte had asked if he wanted to take a trip during the October holiday, mentioning that she finally had some time off and wanted to go somewhere. She had even sent him a list of places she had been wanting to visit. It took Zach 5 hours to reply. What's so great about traveling when the crowds are insane? After that, Charlotte hadn't sent another message. Wendy casually glanced through the destinations Charlotte had suggested, her lips curling into a faint smirk. So much for 3 years together. Zach couldn't even be bothered to go on a simple trip with her. Finding nothing else of interest in their chat, she backed out and continued scrolling until she came across Eugene's message. Reading it, she let out a cold laugh. She thought Charlotte was finally ready to let go. But no. She was still trying to win Zach back, still hoping to make peace with him by buying a gift. How pathetic. Wendy locked the phone, placing it back exactly where it had been. Then, she pulled out her own phone and dialed Monica Miller, Zach's mother. "Hello, Mrs. Gibson. I just ran into Zach's girlfriend at the jewelry store," she said sweetly. She was trying on rings, pushing for marriage. Meanwhile, Charlotte carried the gift back to the villa and continued packing her suitcase. She placed the gift for Sean carefully inside, but as she folded her clothes, her mind drifted to his face, that cool, strikingly handsome face. She had known Sean for a long time. Their family estates were in the same villa community, only 200 or 300 meters apart. As children, they often ran into each other. Sean was 4 years older than her. The first time she met him was at the Jasper family's estate. Her parents had taken her to visit, and at the time, she was only 10. She was just a small child who hadn't quite grown into her looks. Meanwhile, Sean was already tall and refined, looking like the lead in a high school romance drama. Charlotte could only remember her first thought upon seeing him. He was breathtaking. His features were sharp and striking, but his eyes were as cold as winter snow. Her mother nudged her to greet him, and she obediently said, "Hi, Sean." Sean, as distant as ever, gave a curt and indifferent response. "Hello." Back then, Charlotte had thought, he must be a difficult person to get along with. That misunderstanding lasted for years. It wasn't until high school that things changed. Charlotte struggled with math, and somehow, Sean's mother had found out. With a bright smile, she had casually suggested to Desmond, "Let Sean tutor Lottie." Math was always his best subject. He scored high on math tests. By then, Charlotte's mother had already passed away, and she was no longer the carefree little girl she used to be. In just 5 years, she had grown into a quiet, rebellious teenager who didn't care much for authority. When Sean arrived at her house for the first time, the first words out of her mouth were, "I don't need your help." Sean was 21 then, standing at over 6 feet tall. He was wearing a plain white t-shirt and dark gray jeans, his casually tousled hair adding a boyish charm to his otherwise serious demeanor. He simply smirked and leaned against the doorframe. "Well, too bad. I'm going to teach you anyway." Charlotte had assumed he would be strict and demanding. She was wrong. After glancing through her math test, Sean merely furrowed his brows before patiently walking her through every mistake. One question after another, he explained everything without the slightest hint of frustration. His voice was deep and smooth, carrying a hint of roughness, almost like a gentle rasp. As Charlotte listened, math didn't seem quite so unbearable anymore. For problems with multiple solutions, Sean would take the time to explain each one. At some point, the irritation in her eyes faded, replaced by a newfound sense of admiration. "Wow, you're amazing, dude. How do you still remember all of this after graduating high school?" Sean closed his notebook and replied casually, "I don't remember everything. I reviewed a bit before coming over." Then, he paused and tapped her forehead lightly with his pen. "Watch your manners. From now on, call me Sean." That summer, during her second year of high school, Sean spent 2 months tutoring her. At the time, he was in his 3rd year at Jersey University, yet he had spent nearly his entire break teaching her math instead of going out. When school started again, Sean still had vacation left. Every day, after class, Charlotte would come home to find him sitting in her family's living room, waiting to tutor her. Thanks to Sean, her math grades skyrocketed. With her other subjects already strong, her math improvement pushed her overall performance up, and she successfully got into Jersey University. She became Sean's junior. Back then, Charlotte had thought of him as nothing more than a wonderful, reliable older brother. She respected him. She liked him. But there wasn't a trace of romantic feelings. So when her father brought up the idea of her marrying Sean, she couldn't accept it. He had always been her older brother figure. How could a sister marry her brother? As Charlotte lost herself in these memories, the bedroom door suddenly swung open. Zach stood at the doorway, leaning against the frame as he looked at her. "Are you done packing?" Charlotte glanced at her suitcase and nodded. "Almost." Zach didn't leave. Instead, he remained where he was, watching her. After a pause, he said, "Charlotte, is there something you want to say to me?" Charlotte looked up at him, her expression puzzled. "What?" Zach assumed she was still upset, deliberately holding on to the gift instead of giving it to him right away. That was fine. He could give her an out. Softening his tone, he said, "I spoke too harshly at the store earlier. Don't be mad, okay? That should do it." Charlotte sighed, meeting his gaze with an earnest expression. I'm not mad. Zach scoffed. Sure you're not. Believe whatever you want. The casual indifference in her voice instantly irritated him. Charlotte, I already apologized. What more do you want? She continued packing, her movements unbothered. I don't need your apology. Zach stared at her for a few seconds, his expression unreadable. After a moment, he asked, a little awkwardly, where's the gift? Charlotte turned to him. What gift? Eugene said he saw you buying me a watch, Zach said. Didn't you get it to apologize and make up with me? I'm back now. Aren't you going to give it to me? Charlotte had been about to tell him the watch wasn't for him, but before she could, Zach continued as if the matter was already settled. Come on, enough already. Dragging this out is pointless. At that, Charlotte suddenly laughed. Zach's brows furrowed. What's so funny? You, she said, looking at him with amused disbelief. You're hilarious. She met his gaze, her tone light but sharp. I did buy a watch, but it's not for you. And I don't think I did anything wrong, so why would I need to apologize? Zach's face darkened. Not for me. Then who the hell is it for? Charlotte smiled. None of your business. Zach clenched his fists, his temper flaring. None of my business? I'm your boyfriend. And you're out here buying gifts for another man? How the hell is that not my business? Compared to his growing anger, Charlotte was entirely calm. She raised a brow. Aren't you Wendy's boyfriend? Zach tensed, immediately blurting out, it's not like that between us. His voice was noticeably quieter than before, lacking its usual confidence. Because he knew he was guilty. His relationship with Wendy wasn't exactly that of boyfriend and girlfriend, it was more like an affair. He had already crossed the line, already done things he shouldn't have. And yet, on paper, Charlotte was still his girlfriend. He liked Wendy's passionate, daring energy and the way she was flirtatious and unafraid to take the lead. But at the same time, he also liked Charlotte's beautiful face, her soft, gentle nature, and the way she always seemed to understand him. He wasn't ready to tell her about Wendy and him. Not yet. Trying to salvage the situation, he added, today, when I went to the jewelry store with Wendy, it really was because of my mom. We weren't looking at rings for Wendy. We were picking out jewelry to match my mom's new dress. My mom said Wendy has good taste and knows how to match accessories, so she asked her to go with me. It wasn't just about rings, we had to pick out necklaces, earrings, and bracelets too, all carefully matched to go with her new dress. I know you misunderstood, but I was upset at the time, so I didn't bother explaining. I wanted to see if you'd get jealous. Jealous? Charlotte's eyes turned icy. Oh. So now you care whether I'd get jealous? Charlotte, I'm sorry, Zach tried to smooth things over. She cut him off. Your apology is noted. I don't accept it. And no, the gift isn't for you. Zach's patience snapped. His voice rose sharply. Then who's it for? My fiancé. Zach let out a sarcastic laugh, his eyes filled with mockery. Wow, Charlotte Riley, you really will say anything to force me into marriage, huh? He scoffed. So what, you're saying that unless I agree to marry you, become your fiancé, you won't give me the gift? And then you'll forgive me? That's what this is about. Charlotte frowned. Where did he get this level of delusion? Did he really think she couldn't live without him? Zach's eyes were filled with disappointment as he shook his head at Charlotte. Charlotte Riley, I thought you understood the impossible gap between us. I thought you were sensible. But you just keep pushing for marriage over and over again. You've really let me down. Charlotte was rendered speechless. With that, Zach turned and walked out. The bedroom door slammed shut with a loud bang. Charlotte let out a helpless sigh and shook her head. She had been planning to use this moment to have a serious talk with him, to officially break up and tell him the truth that she was the heiress of the Riley family in Jersey City and was returning to get engaged to Sean Jasper. But Zach hadn't even given her a chance to speak. Charlotte thought to herself that maybe the reason he was so convinced she was desperate to marry him was because she had given him that confidence. For years, she had played the role of the obedient, understanding girlfriend, never checking up on him, never getting jealous, never prying into his personal life. Except for physical intimacy, she had rarely ever denied him anything. Maybe that had led him to believe she couldn't live without him. But what he didn't know was that her so-called obedience wasn't because she was naive. It was because she had known all along that he never planned on making her his future. A year ago, she had thought about taking Zach back to Jersey City and telling him about her true identity. But then, she had accidentally overheard his phone call with his mother, Monica. "Mom, don't worry. I know you'd never approve of her marrying into our family. I'm just dating her for fun. If I ever actually planned to get married, obviously, you'd have the final say. You raised me better than to let some random girl drag me into a marriage. I know the difference between dating and marrying." Oh, so he knew the difference. That was when she finally realized that Zach had never intended to have a future with her. To put it plainly, he didn't even love her that much. But Charlotte wasn't the kind of woman to lose herself over love. She had always been able to pick things up and let them go. Since Zach only wanted a relationship with no endgame, fine, she went along with it. At the time, she needed companionship, needed emotional warmth in a city where she had no one. That was all. She had protected herself well, her first kiss and first time still untouched. So why hadn't she left earlier? Because at the time, she had still liked him. And she had gotten used to him being there. Emotions were complicated. They weren't always black and white, all or nothing. After overhearing that phone call, she had never mentioned her family background again. But after finding out she was nothing more than a substitute for Wendy, she suddenly found everything meaningless. She could accept that there was no future between them. She could accept that he didn't love her as much as she once thought. But she could not accept that he had been using her as Wendy's replacement. She was Charlotte Riley. She was her own person. However, Charlotte never expected Monica to show up at her door. The woman was dressed in a deep blue silk dress, her ears and neck adorned with sapphire jewelry, and on her finger sat an enormous pigeon egg-sized diamond ring, the same shade of blue as her outfit. It seems Zach was right. His mother was indeed the kind of person who would buy an entire set of jewelry just to match a dress. Monica looked at her with an expression as if she were examining something she found distasteful. Her eyes were filled with criticism. "You must be Charlotte Riley?" Monica's voice was indifferent, her tone carrying an air of condescension. Charlotte remained polite. "Hello, Mrs. Gibson." Monica stepped inside, her gaze sweeping over the room before finally settling on Charlotte. "I've heard all about you and Zach." She sat gracefully on the couch, her legs crossed at an elegant angle. Her posture was refined, but her words were rough. "Do you really think a girl like you is good enough to marry into the Gibson family?"